Yes, sir.
Mr. President, Phillies or Yankees?
Yankees. Yes, sir.
On the matter of the auto bailout, say that an auto company has failed to create a viable plan by the deadline you've set. What will happen after that? Will the government step in, or?
The government will step in to disassemble the companies in a clean and orderly manner. This does not mean that the companies will simply cease to exist. Their assets will be sold off to other corporations. I would point you to the case of the Daewoo conglomerate in South Korea. At the time in 1999, Daewoo's revenues was $50 billion, and the total GDP of South Korea was $450 billion. In other words, Daewoo consisted of an entire ninth of the GDP. Daewoo's problem was that it was heavily leveraged in the markets, had extensive debts, and was not producing a profitable model. As such, it finally collapsed and was disassembled in an orderly manner by the government to no long-lasting economic consequence. I firmly believe this is similar to what will happen here, especially considering that General Motors' revenues consist of $150 billion and the total GDP of the United States is $14 trillion.
Thank you.
What will happen to those who depend on General Motors and Chrysler for their retirement benefits?
That is a matter that will have to be resolved if the companies do indeed declare bankruptcy. The companies are in negotiation with the unions right now to see what concessions the unions are willing to make, if any. And if the unions are not willing to make concessions, then that will no doubt have a negative effect on the company. If it turns out that in fact the company cannot produce a viable plan, then unfortunately there will be debts. The debts will have to be redistributed according to classic bankruptcy laws, and whatever is left over from the creditors and those who have loaned money will have to go to the retirees. That is the standard procedure up until now, and I see no reason to change it now. Yes.
Mr. President, I have two questions. One is about healthcare, and in your speech you mentioned you were going to disassemble Medicaid. Are
Yes.
you worried that you're going to lose the senior vote in your next election?
Seniors are taken care of by Medicare, not Medicaid. So no, I'm not.
Then what about, so you're not worried? Okay.
No, Medicare will not be disassembled. It is a program designed to provide medication for the elderly. And under the plan I have outlined, medication will not be provided in the manner in which it is provided through Medicare.
All right, and then my other question is about offshore drilling. So you mentioned you did not want to continue with offshore drilling, and you wanted to increase new energy technology, but you didn't mention whether or not you were going to decrease the amount of oil that we'll be receiving from the Middle East in this time of crisis over there. So I was wondering how you're going to deal with keeping our country as the #1 oil consumer in the world, and how are you going to combat the oil companies who have heavy-hitting lobbyists in the government who don't want to see new alternative energy arise in the United States?
I propose to you that oil prices and oil consumption is dictated by market forces, and it is not the government's place to attempt to regulate them. As for the issue of lobbyists in Washington, yes, that is indeed an extensive problem, and it will have to be dealt with in legislation. The fact of the matter is, however, that oil companies are making considerable profits at the moment, and that simply by removing any opportunity they have to use offshore drilling does not actually hurt their profits in any noticeable way. Next question. Yes, sir.
On the topic of lobbyists and healthcare,
Lobbyists in healthcare.
as you know, many senators and representatives receive large sums of money from healthcare companies to sway their vote, or they receive other sort of tangible things. So how on earth are you going to persuade the Senate and the House to vote for your legislation when all of them are receiving huge amounts of money from the healthcare companies, and they're not going to want to approve this?
I would propose to the House that the citizens of the United States will approve of my plan, and that if they are interested in being re-elected, or they are in fact in any way interested in supporting the interests of their constituents, they will approve the plan. If they don't, then they will have to face the consequences back at their own constituencies. Next question. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the topic of prisoners of war, will these illegal combatants who are now qualified as prisoners of war, will they still be extended the rights of habeas corpus in the time of
Absolutely.
war?
Absolutely. They will be extended the rights of habeas corpus.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you worried about the public opinion polls showing that there is no public support
have only limited time left, but I'll be happy to answer questions for the next 3 minutes. So I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Are you worried about the public opinion polls showing limited support for your healthcare plan?
I am not worried about public opinion polls showing limited support for my healthcare plan. I can produce the figures that show that under the projected plan, the average costs for an individual over the age of 26 for receiving healthcare will be $322.86, whereas the current price for an individual receiving healthcare is $4,704. I firmly believe that anyone who is a rational individual cannot possibly disapprove of such a plan. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, is there any truth in the rumors that you were in fact born in England and not in the United States?
None whatsoever, and I must tell you that I do not carry around my birth certificate to indulge nosy reporters. Next question. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, your healthcare proposal included exempting dental companies from the whole mix, like the healthcare thing. So say like someone, like their teeth rot out and they're dying, like what are you going to do about that?
The teeth rot out and they're dying, what are you going to do about that? Well, that would constitute a medical emergency, and thus they would be more than entitled to go to the hospital under the plan I have outlined. The plan that I have outlined does not include standard dental packages such as, shall we say, does not include fillings or other dental problems. It does, however, provide for an instance in which an individual's life is in danger.
So won't that kind of be a waste of the new system, because you could have maybe, by including dental companies, you could have prevented the person's teeth from rotting out instead of having to send them to the hospital because of that.
That is true. The government could have prevented their teeth from rotting. However, they could also have prevented their teeth from rotting by brushing. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much.